Our focus is on the perennial problem of pollution, which is only getting worse. Visuals on your screen. Let's just pull up those visuals of how bad it is this morning driving to work. Visibility was badly affected because that thick blanket of smog that's covering the Delhi NCR region. We're talking about the air quality, which is in the severe category, and that's sparking worries in regard to a rise in respiratory illnesses. The vehicular emission is a top contributor to Delhi's pollution during the winter season. More than stubble burning or the firecrackers. That was one of the reasons that that ban that went up in smoke. But it is the winter season, which is synonymous with the pollution season, the road dust or bursting of firecrackers. But it is over 50% as far as the source of pollution is concerned. We're talking about 51.1% of the pollution is coming from vehicular traffic. So where does the problem really lie? That's where the problem lies, and that is where the solutions need to come out from. And that is what the Center for Science and Environment, the CSE, has taken out its latest findings. And to get more on this, let's just go across to our panel of guests that are joining us, these experts. We're talking about Zareen Osho, Director of India Program, IGST, the Institute for Governance and Sustainable Development, joining us. Anumita Chaudhary, Executive Director of the CSE. We also have Vijay Hada, Additional Professor, Pulmonary AIMS, Dr. Hada joining us as well. Let's just also, get you the latest when it comes to the problem at hand. And Anumita Chaudhary, it is CSE which has come out with the latest study, and that is that the huge chunk of the problem really lies with the number of cars on the roads that we have here. We're talking about 51.1% of the pollution share is coming from vehicular traffic. Walk us through the findings of your latest study.
Absolutely. So what is happening and what we looked at, because every year we talk about pollution, but this time we were very curious to know that where is it coming from? And it's good that the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology, they put out this data daily, which shows how by the hour relative contribution of different sources to pollution of Delhi is changing. Even though a big chunk comes from outside Delhi, but if you take only the local sources of Delhi, then amongst them, vehicles are more than 50%, and we were stunned by this. So the big chunk is vehicles, and after that, you have the residential burning, peripheral industry, construction, open burning, and so forth. When we looked at this pie, and we were so curious that what is going on, because you'll also remember that Delhi has also done the maximum to control vehicular pollution. Delhi has got the BS6 emission standards, the largest ever CNG program for public transport and local commercial transport, restriction on trucks, phased out old vehicles, and the electrification happening. So on technology front, a lot has been done to control emissions. And yet we have this kind of a problem. So clearly, when we looked at it deeply, we realized that what we have gained there, we are losing in the choking congestion, the massive traffic building up. The city with more than 79 lakh vehicles, adding 6.5 vehicles a year. That's what happened last year. And not only that, what we add annually, on a daily basis, more than 1.1 million vehicles enter Delhi and leave Delhi. Now, clearly, this is happening, and our dependence on personal vehicles is increasing because of very poor state of public transport. Delhi falls woefully short of the official target of number of buses it requires. If we require 60 buses per lakh of population, Delhi has 45 lakh. Even though Delhi has also the highest number of electric buses, and it's rising in number, but what is it's scary that the ridership is steadily declining in Delhi, and even very recently, when the little bit of upward turn has happened, we still haven't reached the pre-pandemic period. Now, this is not just about having buses. When we looked at is the bus or public transport services available close to our doorstep. Then we looked at the bus stops of Delhi because our data is available, which is very good. And we found that less than 1% of Delhi's bus stops have waiting time less than 10 minutes, which means everywhere you are waiting from 15 to 20 minutes. Now, why will you board a bus if it's so slow, if it's caught in congestion? You have not done enough to integrate bus and the metro and give the last mile connectivity. And as a result of this, we are seeing this mobility crisis taking over,
Right.
which has now become one of the contributors to pollution.
Right, Anamita, we also have Nand Gopal, former senior transport officer with us. Sir, if you could really add to what Anamita has just spoken about in regard to providing safe and convenient alternatives. What can we really do to improve our public transport? And, driving in Delhi has become a nightmare. The number of cars that we are seeing on the streets is increasing sharply. What can really be done about this?
जैसे कि अनुमिता जी ने कहा है, मैं उस बात से पूरी तरह सहमत हूँ कि पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट सिस्टम जो हमारा दिल्ली का है वो बहुत अभी इम्प्रूव करने की पोजीशन में रहना चाहिए, क्योंकि जितनी पॉपुलेशन दिल्ली शहर की बढ़ती जा रही है उसके अकॉर्डिंग शहर में पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट के बारे में कुछ विचार नहीं किया गया है। जो बसेस कॉमनवेल्थ गेम्स में दिल्ली में चल रही थी उसके बाद से नई बसेस लाने में सरकार उतनी कामयाब नहीं हो पाई है। पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट की वजह से लोग अपना व्हीकल यूज करते हैं। मैं ये कहना चाहूंगा कि 3 चीजें मेनली दिल्ली के पोल्यूशन में बहुत बड़े कारक हैं। नंबर 1, पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट बहुत अच्छा नहीं है, और लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी जो कि मेट्रो सरकार ने चलाई है उससे थोड़े रिलीफ जरूर मिला है, लेकिन उसमें भी लोगों को जो लास्ट माइल कनेक्टिविटी है उसकी बहुत बड़ी जरूरत है, जिसकी वजह से लोग मेट्रो को फॉलो न करके अपने व्हीकल को रोड पे ले आते हैं। दूसरी सबसे बड़ी बात जो मैं कहूंगा, दिल्ली के एडजॉइनिंग जितने भी स्टेट्स हैं उनके करीब 1.25 से 1.5 लाख लोग डेली अपनी गाड़ियां लेकर दिल्ली में एंटर करते हैं, और जिसकी वजह से कंजेशन बहुत बढ़ जाता है। इवन पीक आवर्स में आप देखेंगे कि पीक आवर्स में हर रेड लाइट पे, हर क्रॉसिंग पे एक बहुत बड़े नंबर्स आपको मिलेंगे, जिसकी वजह से गाड़ियां, क्योंकि इंजन ऑन रहता है, जिसकी वजह से बहुत बड़ा पॉल्यूशन बढ़ जाता है, और उसको ठीक करने के लिए हमारे रोड को चौड़ा करना होगा, हमारे ट्रैफिक को कंट्रोल करने के लिए और बेहतर पोजीशंस होंगी। विदेश में जाके स्टडी करें और एक बेहतर रोड सेफ्टी मैनेजमेंट लागू किया जाए। दूसरी बात मैं कहूंगा, सर्दियों में आके जो कि नेबरिंग स्टेट की गाड़ियां हैं जो डीजल व्हीकल्स हैं, डीजल व्हीकल्स की एंट्री बैन कर देनी चाहिए दिल्ली में, क्योंकि डीजल व्हीकल्स सबसे ज्यादा पॉल्यूशन फैलाते हैं। और ये चाहे हरियाणा की हो, पंजाब की हो, यूपी की हो, सभी बसेस, हर स्टेट के बसेस में पॉल्यूशन इमिशन नॉर्म्स का कोई कंट्रोल नहीं है। उसके साथ साथ दिल्ली में जो मेन थोक बाजार है, थोक बाजार में नाइट में ट्रक्स की एंट्री होती है। ट्रक्स जो भी माल लेकर आते हैं ट्रक्स, उनको अपलोड कराया जाता है नाइट में, और नाइट में क्योंकि सर्दियों का मौसम है, हमारे आसमान में नमी होती है, हवा चल नहीं रही होती है, तो जो भी उन डीजल व्हीकल से, जो उन ट्रक से, बसेस से पॉल्यूशन निकलता है वो दिल्ली के आसमान में घूमता रहता है। हवाएं क्योंकि चल नहीं पाती हैं, इसलिए दिल्ली के लोगों को बेहतर सुविधा देने के लिए बाहर से आने वाली डीजल गाड़ियों को बैन करना होगा। पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्टेशन को बढ़ाने के लिए सरकार को बहुत जरूरी और स्टेप्स लेने होंगे। और मैं तो ये कहूंगा, जैसे कि और बहुत से जो डेवलपिंग कंट्रीज हैं, वो चाहे उसमें लंदन हो या और दूसरे सिटीज हो, जो पीक आवर्स में उसमें कंजेशन चार्ज भी लगाना चाहिए कि लोग अवॉइड करें उस एरियाज में जाने के लिए जो बहुत ज्यादा भीड़ है, जो बहुत ज्यादा ट्रैफिक कंजेशन है, उस एरियाज में जाने के लिए लोगों को ये कोशिश की जाए कि वो उस एरियाज में अपने पब्लिक ट्रांसपोर्ट को अडॉप्ट करें, अपनी गाड़ियां ले जाने से बचें।
We also have Ms. Osho with us. If you could, talk us through is increasing the financial burden of the poor farmer solution to pollution instead of providing better solutions to the farmers and tackling the root cause or the major contributor, which is, like we've discussed, vehicular traffic.
Thank you for the question. I just want to first start with sort of laying the map of the land here. there are fines that can go up to 30,000 rupees for certain farmers in certain cases. The problem is a lot of the holders of the farmers that hold bigger chunks of land, like more than 2 acres of land, a lot of them in the richer states are able to afford stubble management machines. It is actually the farmer that holds less than 2 acres of land that is going to be directly impacted. So, putting a financial burden on the farmer, especially a poor farmer, a smallholder farmer, is not an advisable thing to do. We also run several surveys and work with several state governments that are agrarian economies across India. And one of the things that we have been told through our primary surveys on the fields was that there was a lack of capacity, there was a miscommunication, and in some cases there was very little information that was passed down to the farmer to be able to act in a manner that the farmer knew what to do. Second of all, the incentives that were to be transferred to the farmer, which were through subsidies through the central government and the state governments, have actually not reached the farmer. So, expecting the farmer to take on the responsibility of making sure that not only does the farmer manage the farm, produce the food, and also pay fines on top of that, it seems a little unfair on the whole. And the question that one should also ask, as Anumita has already pointed out, when we are looking at the composition of air pollution in India, we're essentially looking at comparing the emissions from stubble burning. Then we're also comparing it to the transport emissions. So have we done enough back home before we can, put the burden on the farmer who has to then bear the costs? So
Absolutely.
that's where we are now starting to lack in our overall understanding. The other point is a lot of the data on emissions is not necessarily valid. It's not provided publicly. It's dated. We do not know the composition of the emissions. Like Nand Gopalji said, we have, NOx emissions. What is the composition of it? How much of it is, changing by the wind patterns, by temperature, by moisture? The studies that are required for policymakers to take a coherent policy decision on this matter, you need that data. If you do not have that data, you're essentially, aiming in the dark. So I think it's a very short-sighted measure that has been taken, where the farmer has been asked to do everything and the government has decided to take a back seat. So that doesn't seem necessarily the best idea. I think there are better ways to go about it.
Right. The poor farmer who's already strapped for cash, is being asked to bear the brunt of the problem. And of course, the problem really lies, like the CESC report is suggesting, that there are other sources and which need to be tackled first. We also have Dr. Hada with us. Doctor, everyone around me seems to be coughing or sneezing. Are you also seeing an uptick in the number of patients that are coming in with respiratory issues? Take us through the kind of age groups of your patients, and are there any kind of precautionary measures that we can take? Sir, if you could just unmute yourself.
Sorry, good morning, everyone. So I think this is very, very important issue. Every year we see that during this time period, the quality of air in Delhi especially goes so bad that we are even difficult to breathe. So if we see the effect of this pollution, I will divide the whole population in two groups. One is the healthy population and the people who are having some kind of underlying disease. It may be respiratory disease, it may be cardiac disease, it may be some other diseases. So I am getting daily many calls from my colleagues, my friends, that during this period of time, they keep on coughing, sneezing, and it is very difficult to breathe. And many will say that when they breathe, they can feel the bitterness in the throat. So this clearly indicate that during this period of time, the air quality is so bad because we cannot stop breathing. And if we breathe, we are inhaling loads of air. And just give the numbers, approximately 500 ml of air we are inhaling with each breath. So you can imagine that in the entire day, how much air we are inhaling in. So we cannot avoid it. Breathing is essential for life. So next comes the population which is having some diseases. Among these diseases, the respiratory illnesses, especially asthma, COPD, these are kind of patient, if I recollect, then during the last approximately 9 months or so, till October or November, all the patients will be stable till Feb. But as soon as this November starts or October ends comes, these people will start coming very frequently. Usually we call these patients to our hospital every 2 to 3 months.
Doctor, is
But
there anything one can do to safeguard oneself from this toxic air that we are breathing constantly?
Yes, definitely. There are few personal measures. For example, we always say that the maximum bad quality of air is in the morning and late in the evening. So we advise that do not exercise during that period. Avoid going outside. And if you want to do some exercise, always do indoors. Second, you hydrate yourself well. That is very, very important. And then healthy lifestyle. For example, smoking. Smoking is very injurious as such also. But if you are inhaling a bad air along with you are taking smoking also, so it will add. I can tell you here that in Delhi we are inhaling already a smoke which is equivalent to 10 cigarette per day. So you can imagine that already you are taking a smoke equivalent to 10 cigarette, and if you are
right, Doctor, and to get a sense of how bad it is on the ground, we also have my colleague Shreya joining us. Thank you so much for speaking with us this morning. Shreya, over to you. Take us through how smoky and how many cigarettes have you smoked in the last 5 minutes of standing outside waiting for us to come to you in terms of the air that you're breathing, because like the doctor suggested that it's equivalent to smoking 10 cigarettes.
Well, that's right, Divya. We can see that the overall AQI is at 383, and some of the areas have already touched over 400. The air quality is just worsening with each passing day. It is almost like smoking 15 to 20 cigarettes a day. And right here, as you can see, the vehicles are making their way through the dense smog in Delhi. It's noxious grey skies, as you can see. And as per experts, we know that, inadequate public transport services and explosive growth of private vehicles in the national capital are the reason why, the air quality improvements achieved through electric vehicles are not working out. And we also know that, in the last one decade, motorized trips in Delhi, using private vehicles have increased by 49%, and the share of bus trips have declined by 20%. So people are, the graded response action plan also talks about increasing parking free to encourage people in using more of public transport rather than private. But experts say that we need a parking management area plan for it to be effective. And I'm also joined by a little girl here. You tell me, what kind of health impact are you personally experiencing because of the pollution?
Headache and eyes itching.
And which mask are you using right now?
Surgical mask.
Okay. And do you think it is the pollution from the cars? And do you personally use the public transport?
Yes.
Do you think people are less likely in using public transport these days when they can easily opt for, say, Uber or Ola? There's less of carpooling options in Delhi?
Yes. They can take Uber and Ola.
But there should be more public transport like buses and everything.
Yes. But buses like CNG made less pollution than those cars which make more pollution.
Right. So, of course, we know that the health impact is massive, and people are less likely to use public transport, which is one of the root cause of the rising air pollution in the national capital. Over to you.